In this segment, to make basic tonal corrections, we will set the white and black points, which is a common practice in finding the highlights and the very darkest areas of an image. We can use a number of different methods, but let's get started with this one for basics. To set the black and white points, we always want to check our values numerically using these methods. So the first thing is that we need to create a threshold adjustment layer to locate shadows and highlights. And this can be found at the bottom of your layers panel. This is part of an adjustment layer, and so we need to look for that button. So going to Photoshop, I've got this image open. So the first thing that we need to do is open the levels.jpg, or if you don't have the photograph, you need to look for a black and white image that looks a bit dull or washed out, that needs a little bit of help. In any case, we still need to make some tonal adjustments, usually in print media. Okay, so for threshold, we were looking for a threshold adjustment layer. So at the bottom of the layers panel right here, this is the button that we click. It's halfway filled in circle, and this is used to create a new fill or adjustment layer. And there are a number of adjustments that we can make to a layer, and it's not a permanent change. Some of these same ones, most of these same adjustments are available in the drop-down menu under Image Adjustments. However, those are permanent changes, and so these allow us to make sure that we do not make a permanent change, but we will be able to later come back and adjust it if we need to. The one that I want to choose is called Levels. Later on, and the very first one we need to choose before that to set the white and the black point is Threshold. Threshold makes it so that our photograph looks like, and it adjusts the photograph so that we only have black and white pixels and nothing in between. So currently we show that it's 50% of the imagery, or in other words, if we have a gray that is 50% gray, halfway between black and white, everything above that or below that that's going to be a lower value will be completely white. And anything above that, up to 100%, from 50% to 100%, is going to be completely black. And so an adjustment layer means that in the layer you can see here this threshold adjustment, and I can turn that on and off. Okay, it's the same photo as it was before. Now this panel right here, the properties panel, and in earlier versions of Photoshop it was the adjustment panel, you'll see this threshold specifically. And what we want to do is we want to use the slider at the bottom to change the range of how much we set to white or black. Right now it's halfway between, and those things with the threshold open, we want to do this. We want to drag from left to right to locate the highlights. Okay, so this is going to make it so that everything else is very dark, and we're only looking for the very, very lightest thing. And in order to set a target to where that is and to pinpoint it, we're going to set a marker called a target. And you do this by a shift click with the eyedropper tool to set a target. So we're going to use the eyedropper tool, which is this one right here. I'm going to click on that. Alright, and then I'm going to push the threshold, pull that out a little bit, because I want to be able to move this around, and we can put it back in a little bit later. So I'm going to push this from the left to the right, and you're going to see that what it's doing is any of the levels that I have It's going to take a higher level in order to get to the white. So I'm thinning it out, in other words, and so we're almost seeing nothing. So I want to zoom in to the picture. Command or Control plus will do that, and again, hold down your spacebar key to relocate or pan through your image. Okay, the very lightest is going to be probably, you guessed it, the top or the head of our bird, or the back feathers of the bird. And one of the things that I like to do is take and open up the info panel. Now the info panel, if you're not familiar with it, it does measurements of all kinds, but mainly it measures tonal range or color range and how much percentages or information is for the different colors. CMYK would be the color channels for the color of ink. K actually means or refers to black and white and gray. Okay, so if you don't see the black or the CMYK, we're mainly interested in the black. If you go into the flyout menu under the panel options, then we have two readouts that we can actually put. And so this is actual color, all right, the first one here. And we can adjust to anything else. The actual color is fine. If we really want to force it to be black and white, we're going to check the grayscale. And you'll see my readout now is K on both of them. Or in other words, grayscale, black and white. Okay, so when I run the eyedropper, the end of it, over an area, you're going to see that these numbers mean how much I have currently at 100%, that's black. But when I run the eyedropper over, it's going to show what is going to happen if I set that into place. Okay, so what we were at, in fact, the first readout is what used to be there, and then 100%, well, that's completely black. So if I go and run the eyedropper over the lightest area, okay, that means that I'm looking at, and keep your eyes on the info, I'm at about what was 6 or 5, and that seems to be the very lightest that this picture has had to offer. Okay, so really I'm okay with anything that's like 5%, and so I'm going to pick the very top of the back of my bird here. And in order to set the target, and the target's very small indeed, but you want to hold down the shift key, and you'll see right where I'm at. If I hold the shift key down, then the eyedropper has a little target above it. If I click on the mouse to set the target, then you'll see there's the first target, and it will stay there. Yeah, it's going to stay about that size no matter how much I zoom in or out on the picture. Okay, so I can always find that. Okay, the next thing that I want to do, okay, is with the threshold open, drag from the right to the left to locate the shadows, and then shift click with the eyedropper to set a target. So now we're going to set the black point. We just set the white point, we're going to set the black point. So we're going to slide this threshold the opposite direction, and you can see the black is disappearing just about. And you can see here this little, what we call a histogram. This measures how much is in the different areas of across the gray values, and there's not very much in the very darkest areas. Okay, so I would say that best practice for me is to locate something that's sort of towards the center of the image rather than the outer edges, because it can be deceiving. So I'm going to pick something more like in this area right here, and if I again zoom in, let's click in here so I can zoom in to the edge of the image. Oh, that went away. Yeah, so sliding it all the way over, almost. Okay. And again, I want to get this info going here. What are we talking about? If you see in the info, the darkest areas are somewhere around 77, so we're nowhere near black overall in the entire picture. This is the darkest that it was, and now I'm pushing it to be 100%, of course. So I'm going to set a target there. Hold down your Shift key, click, and there is the target number 2. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and zoom out. Now we have 2 targets. We've set the white point and the black point, so I know right where those are. And in the next lesson, we're going to turn off this adjustment layer, and we're going to set our adjustments in using levels.